Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Game Pass Grab Bag, your weekly podcast reviewing games from the Game Pass collection, bringing you three unique perspectives from varying skill range. I am the one trying to fix the bad memories of this episode, Andrew. With me, the one who loves creating awful memories, Keith.
Hello.
And the one who likes to point and laugh at everyone's memories, Aaron.
Hello, hello.
This week, we played South of Midnight by Compulsion Studios. South of Midnight is a third-person action platformer where you are playing a weaver, which is a person who is gifted with special abilities who can see the threads of time, and you are trying to fix corrupt memories that have been plaguing the people of the residents of Mississippi. But you are trying to find your lost mother, who unfortunately was swept away in a terrible hurricane, and you are trying to basically unravel everything that is going on in the mysteries of all the creatures that are kind of inhabiting this area. But I will start this episode off as whether this is a game or pass for me. And I will say, I was very nervous about South of Midnight. I had a lot of things that made me very hesitant, but I am very happy to say that this is a definite game. I really like this game a lot. It's not perfect. It has some issues, but like I said, I was very nervous at first because I felt like anytime they were showing anything about this game, they were never showing anything about the combat or the platforming. They just kept saying, hey, look at our art style, and we're telling a good story, and that's all they kept saying. And I'm like, well, yeah, quick snippets of combat, but what's going on here? I didn't know if it was an open world game. I didn't know if it was linear, which it is linear. But yeah, playing this, I mean, I see why they were talking about the story because I loved this game's story, and I also want to say too, I know a lot of people, there's a lot of chatter online saying like, oh, this game's trash. It's woke, blah, blah, blah. This game was absolutely not preachy. I wouldn't say this game was woke at all. I thought this game was really nice. It was a wonderful story to tell. Do not listen to the noise. Do not be arrogant. Check this game out. It was well worth your time. This was a delight. Definite game.
Yeah, I don't remember how long we've been talking about it. I guess not like it's been like on a hot topic all the time. But I know it's been something we've talked about. We've been anticipating this, that, and the other. But like I said, all I could remember about it was like, oh yeah, aesthetically it looked like it was a pretty cool game. But I don't really know. I as you know, just didn't follow it. But I had heard good things as people were starting to play it a little bit, so I was starting to get some anticipation. But I absolutely adore this game, just in every capacity. It's funny because you were saying it's not a perfect game, and I think we probably are still going to land on agreeing on just about everything. But in so many ways, like I was just thinking, the more I was thinking about, like this is at least, it's not necessarily the greatest game I've ever played. It's not, an absolute 100 whatever, but it is a definite game, and I just think in everything that they offer to it, like, in my opinion, I think it's just like a perfectly well-rounded all-around game. Just without even going too far into it, I absolutely loved the story. I have a lot to say on it, but I absolutely loved it, and the gameplay was fun. The aesthetic was everything they thought they hyped it up to be. The story, yeah, I already said cool. So yeah, just definite game.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you guys. This is a very, very good game, and along with Andrew, sorry, that I was a little nervous with this one. This is gonna go down maybe as my biggest surprise of the year. Because of that, when they were initially showing this game off, I was really cool with the art style. There was a lot of people that took shots at the art style at the beginning because it's somewhat choppy, almost stop motion-y.
Yeah.
Which I personally love. I'm a huge fan of stop motion animation. So
yeah,
for me,
as a movie guy, what was that studio you always loved?
Leica Studios. I still love Leica Studios. Yeah. I took Lily to go see Coraline last year, which was one of my favorite films. When they re-released it, I took her to go see that, and she's hooked on it herself. So huge fan of that studio. So this has a lot of that feel to it. But yeah, this is going to go down as just a really surprise at how good this game turned out to be. And you're right. There's going to be plenty to criticize here because it's not a perfect game. So I don't want to sit here and say this is the perfect game, but it it absolutely lives up to a little bit of the pedigree of the studio and a little bit of the hype that was going into it as well. It deserves it.
Yeah. See, that was also another one of my concerns was the pedigree of the studio. So I don't know if do you know this? Do you remember this studio, Keith? What game they did before?
We Happy Few.
I remember. Sarah wasn't even here for it. So We Happy Few was one of actually I think our first 10 episodes was We Happy Few. I think it was like our fourth. But We Happy Few, I loved the environment of it, but I had so many issues with that game. It wasn't great. It didn't hook me as much as I was hoping. So that's why when I saw this studio, like this game, I was just like, So there was just a lot of this game that kind of just made me nervous. And not only that, this game takes place, getting into the story of it, in the deep South, in like Mississippi. And in the last studio I think that'd be great for this kind of game is a Canadian studio. So it's like, okay. And they're like, don't worry, we got experts, which also is still kind of a red flag for me.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, you're getting it. Because as you probably see from other games where they're like, oh, we got experts. And it's just like, they get some guy on Wikipedia.
Could it be worse than the Halo show where they're like, yeah, but we made sure they did not play Halo.
Yeah. It was imperative that they did nothing about it.
So going into this, I'm just like, they're like, yeah, so we're crafting a story of a very specific locale from a Canadian studio talking about, these like cryptid monsters that are actually part of like kind of the folklore of that area. So it's kind of like, okay, a lot of this is making me kind of nervous. But no, the story of this game is actually really is the biggest highlight to me in this game, next to the art style. But as I said, yeah, the story takes place during modern times-ish. Yeah, if give or take, there's cell phones and smartphones.
Yeah, I feel like they mentioned the date at some point. I remember it being somewhere like 2016 or 2018, if I remember correctly. It has to be
new enough, current enough that she makes a joke or at least a comment about true crime podcasts in the internet.
Yeah.
And she pulls out a smartphone at one point.
I could have swore, maybe I'm thinking of a different game, but I could have swore they mentioned a date that wasn't that far ago. But yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, it's confusing when you're kind of seeing some of the locales and people. But anyway, if you're aware of Mississippi, they get a lot of hurricanes. So of course, this game starts off, it does a quick intro of there are these special people called weavers that can see the threads of time, but sometimes these threads get tangled, which are called stigmas, creates these monsters, creates bad memories, and kind of pollutes the area. But these weavers can see these and try to untangle the thread to fix the area. But they only get created during a terrible storm. So sure enough, a terrible storm hits Mississippi, as terrible storms tend to do. And unfortunately, your mother ends up getting swept away in the house that you are on a very rickety cinder blocks over a river. So you are trying to save her, but unfortunately, you're not able to succeed, and you're spending your time trying to find her.
Yeah, I thought that was an odd choice. And like, I don't know, I've never been into like
what was an odd choice? The storm, the location, the house,
the building the house on like over a river where you get hurricanes. But I don't know, maybe that's like a thing. I've never been.
I will say I live in North Carolina, and we're technically a little bit below the water line, which Mississippi is. Mississippi is like, or parts of it are pretty significantly low below the water line. But a lot of houses do have stilts if you're near the river, so it's not uncommon. But they look like they built it literally over the river. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be the river's overflowed. But
yeah, either way, that was I was gonna let that pass. I wasn't really upset about it. I just thought it was kind of funny.
Are we sure this is? I don't recall. Did they actually say this is Mississippi?
Yes.
I always assumed it was Louisiana.
I am 90% sure it is Mississippi.
Okay.
I just don't recall the name of the town.
Yeah, which is
starts with a P.
It was
Prospero is the town.
Prospero. Yeah, Prospero. Because she's got that on her hoodie wrapped around her waist.
Yes.
I don't recall them saying Mississippi, but I could be wrong. When I think Deep South, I think Louisiana. I think of the Bayou as kind of my immediate go-to.
Gators.
So kind of just judging by the accents and stuff, I just immediately think Louisiana. But I don't recall them stating where it was specifically. So maybe you're right.
I'm trying to
look it up. I'm trying to buy you time.
I'm trying to Google it out. Thank you, Aaron. I feel you are.
I'm trying to buy you time to try and prove me wrong, but you're failing right now. So
I guess okay. So I think it's
This
just
is
supposed to be a
Delta.
fictional Deep South. So I don't think they give it an
Yeah.
actual exact location. Okay.
So I just had to do my due journalism over here and make sure that was put on record, that we don't actually know if this is in Mississippi, just somewhere in the Deep South.
Craig and Chet confirmed the two that they don't specify exactly.
All
Thank
right,
you,
there we
Mississippi
go.
Delta is about the closest I could find.
Thank you,
That
Craig.
doesn't mean much.
I appreciate you in the chat. So story-wise, again, shockingly good. Shockingly pretty spot on. And I know Andrew kind of gave his thing at the beginning about it not really being woke. There can sometimes be some really low-hanging fruit when you're dealing with the Deep South and you're dealing with a black woman as your main character. And you're kind of expecting, I kind of know where this is going. I just watched a review for the movie Sinners, which comes out this weekend. Really excited to see it. And one of the commentators that I watched, he had kind of mentioned that right now, allegories in movies or just in any type of form of entertainment kind of revolve around like three things. And he mentioned race, Donald Trump, and then I forget what he labeled us as the third one, but it's kind of true. When you're seeing an allegory in a film right now, that's pretty much what it's dealing with. Like, it's pretty usually spot on the nose. This is what it's about. And you kind of felt like, oh, this is what this could do. But it really doesn't. It really kind of understood the story it wanted to tell. Wasn't really about that really all that much at all. There's elements of it, which is, sure, that's going to exist. But there's a diverse set of characters here. And they have very unique sets of motivations throughout there.
Yeah. Honestly, the story's a lot of vignettes, like little stories told.
Yeah, I love that too. Do you know what this game has a really weird kinship with? Not only just in story, but it also has it in kind of in gameplay. Psychonauts. Psychonauts is kind of a similar thing where you're kind of going into different people's vignettes.
Yeah.
And the ability she has.
Vignettes in the game too.
Very Psychonauts. The double jump, the glide, the attacks where you're pulling people. Very Psychonauts. You having the little puppet character you can go run. Very Psychonauts. I'm not saying it's one for one, but it's got an interesting kinship there that as I was playing it, I was like, there are even just kind of the wackiness of some of the characters is very much like, this reminds me of the looseness and funness that Psychonauts has. And that's the other thing. The story isn't just a serious through line. It's fun. Like, it actually kind of has fun with some of those elements and darkness.
There's a lot of darkness. I got to go off on the darkness a little bit.
So that's why I was saying Edith Finch it's these just little dark vignettes. Like, the gameplay obviously is very, very different. It's not a walking simulator, but they're not like these emotional, hard-hitting, I'm sad, although they are sad stories. It's more just like, ooh, I'm uncomfortable type of
even that very first one with the two brothers.
Yeah.
You kind of get to the end, you're like, oh my gosh, like what the heck?
Because I was expected to be that dark. All right. Sorry. All right. So I want to go a little bit on the story here. So,
well, let's not spoil anything.
Oh no, I'm not going to spoil anything.
Yeah.
So the first thing I think is kind of funny. We've done a clip on this before, but right when you start the game, they said, "Hey, fair warning, there's some traumatic events here for people who may not like spiders." Like, they kind of warn you about people with arachnophobia. You might want to be careful here. There's some traumatic events.
Just take the spiders out of games already. Jesus.
I know.
I know we've already talked about this. Big spider.
Don't get me fired up.
Okay, real quick tangent. I swear, there's probably more people afraid of like water and drowning. Can we as a gaming community get together and say remove water levels because it scares me? I hate water levels in video games, and it'd be great if we got rid of those. So let's try to band together, get rid of those. But anyway,
these near-death drowning experiences.
Yeah, but anyway, I feel like this game should have really had a warning of there's a lot of child trauma in this game.
Yeah. Or just in general, like, hey, if you feel like some trauma might be tough for you, this might be a lot.
So, because I've heard people saying like, oh, this game kind of choked me up a little bit, which also, anytime I hear a lot of people say that and stuff, and I'm kind of like, whatever. So I work in healthcare, and a lot of these stories actually were really hitting close to home. I have seen a lot of similar to these stories. So when it was telling these stories, I actually was like, this is a little rough. Like this, it's really, to me, just it really hit home of like what is going on and the stuff that does happen. So your mother is a social worker, which I thought was interesting because like social workers, they really don't get talked about a lot. It's an awful job. I think it's at least a master's. They don't get paid a lot. Because I remember I researched this because I looked into it when I was kind of looking for a job. And on average, I think the most social workers like work 10 to 15 years because it just burns them out because you're just dealing with absolute trauma, usually with kids. And it's just, and you're always tied by the government of like what you can do. So that's kind of what's happening with your mother. And you're kind of learning what she goes through and what she does with a lot of these families. And it's like, okay, this is heavy. And it was surprising because when the game first starts off, I was like, oh, it's kind of goofy. I will say I hated kind of the first beginning of the level when your mom's being taken away in the house. And it's now like, learn how to jump. And I'm like, my mom's being taken away in a flood. It's supposed to be this traumatic moment, but it's like, here's how you jump.
It's a bad way to give you a tutorial.
Yeah. I was like, so to me, I'm like, this tone's weird. But no, this game really gets into some super dark areas. And it's what hooked me with the story because I loved these just little vignettes of what's going on and what you're learning.
Well, and I think so for me, that was what I liked the most is that just overall too, is that each of them had some small piece of importance to the overall story. They really kind of stood on their own as just these one-off stories. And there's like a small blip of it that just carries the story forward. So I could get invested in the stories without having to worry about these like deep emotional connections. Obviously some of them do tie into the main story, but overall, like they were just the way they hit were just so much more like, I don't know, they were real stories like you said, and they didn't feel like it was just some like, I don't know, and then the world blew up. It was like I can't connect to that. Obviously I can't connect to these things on an individual level, but you're like, these are like real stories you would hear or read about. And they're like, that's rough.
So overall, if I'm giving like my gold stars here, story gets a gold star. To me, graphics gets the other gold star. Those to me it's two strong suits. However, because I got to add a negative slant in here, the story does get a little, I don't know if you guys ran into this, it does get a little screwy. Now, I understand at the beginning the game is linear, which is true-ish. It's like 90% linear. So and this kind of messed up the story beats for me a little bit, on the Jolene section, so the two-toed Tom. Oh, by the way, yeah, music also gets gold star.
I have comments on music.
No, the music is too good. It is
we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
I already know what you're going to complain about. And I already
so
you're wrong.
That Jolene one, I ended up doing the last sequence, and then I did the second to last before it. So when I got to the last, I'm like,
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Wait, what happened? I was like, I don't remember that. How did she get here? How did this happen?
I thought the Jolene one was linear.
You can
No, it was not.
No.
You could go around and get to the last one before you got to the second to last.
I think the Laurent one is the same way. And I was kind of not annoyed, but like it threw me off a little.
Your dad's one could be that way too, because when you come up to the estate, there are
there's like
multiple ones around it. So you could grab any one of those at one time. So the Jolene one was messed up for me. I got to the end, like I saw the ending part, and then I got to the other part, what actually led to it. And I was like, oh, well, I probably should have seen this part first, but I didn't know. You're just kind of going around doing the level. And
I feel like they could have just
made it actually linear.
Those linear. But at the same time, and there's a couple of them specifically that I can think of that can't be linear for that reason, unless
you're right, just display it.
Because
just display it. I'm doing that.
The story has to take place in that location. At least one that I can think of. Like she comments on.
So in that case, then it should just block me off from not seeing the story beat in its proper.
And it's so hard because like some of them are done for like gameplay purposes, for platforming purposes, and I get why they do it. To be honest though, like within some reason, you kind of knew where the story was going, even with seeing one of them. So I totally agree. Like I agree with you. I'm not saying I disagree with you by any means, but there is enough of it that I was like, I wasn't totally bummed, but I wish it was done that way.
Yeah. So I'm guessing, Andrew, you did not run into that.
Not in the Two-Toed Tom one. Actually,
I said I might have.
I don't think on any of them.
For me, I think it was the Laurent one in particular. Or maybe it was the one with your dad. It was one of the two that I ran into it with.
Because I was curious. I always figured like, yes, there's sections where you go to unlock the memory, but I always figured no matter where you're unlocking the memory, it's going to just give you.
Well, that's what we were just arguing.
But
as Keith said,
because my story always seemed complete.
Some of them where the last one is important for, like it turns into a boss battle or something like that.
Well, there's that. In particular, because there are some that I think are walled off for that purpose, but there's also some of them in particular, there'll be like an item that gets referenced at that scene, that particular story has to happen at the scene. Like there's one of them, there's a reference to a character hiding somewhere, and you watch the story and then you're like, oh, this was where they hid. Like you kind of like think about, reference it. So it has to happen where the fight and the reveal happens. They can't take those out of order.
Yeah.
But at least, I don't know, if they can be open to explore, don't make it available until I've done the other things first, maybe.
Yeah, that was, and again,
it's such a minor thing.
No, it's small gray because you still get the satisfaction of the reveal. It just wasn't in its correct order. It just feels funny that a game that is so finely tuned to laying out the story for you, it would allow you to do these things in a different order. And then there's another small gripe on the story. I do think how they kind of introduce you as a weaver kind of sucks. It's very you're a weaver.
You accidentally fell in the water and you come back to life and go, what?
Yeah, it's just,
just slowly unravel it.
It's just
I don't want to do a spoiler. It's been a while, Keith. I think you're in purgatory.
Okay, I'm just saying how it's revealed. I'm just saying how it's revealed kind of sucks. Obviously, as the game goes on, you learn a little bit more. I just think how your character comes on to learning about these things kind of sucks. Like it's just, that's not really super well thought out. And that's kind of one of those games where you're like, man, flesh this out a little bit more. I'm down with that. I'm down with you taking a little bit more time on a cutscene or something like that. Like that's where this thing is kind of cooking right now. I don't really need to do more platforming on this. Just give me some more of that, because I would rather spend more time with you developing this character than just speeding it up. But again, those are minor gripes because overall it's such a home run. But those are things that did stick out to me.
It feels like a weird thing for me to defend this, but like I actually kind of like the way they introduce it, because like I don't know, it shouldn't have been a grand reveal for the way that like her character unfolds and all of that. Like it made sense for it to just be this slow to awkward kind of stumbling, bumbling discovery of it all.
It's that's the thing though, is it's not really slow. It's pretty like she literally is introduced to it by walking into a room and picking up 2 items and then just being like, oh, cool, I can do this.
Yeah, they're like loom hooks.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, okay. Like you don't wonder why or how. And then you kind of, even when you're kind of introduced to the catfish, he just kind of is like, oh, you don't know? Oh, you don't know? And it's like, no, I don't. Explain it to me.
Well,
there's kind of like this constant like pitter-pattering around it. And you're like, I don't know. I would think if I'm Hazel, I'm going, yeah, no, explain this to me. What is happening to me right now? What am I doing right now?
with the catfish? And
I know.
And he just talks in circles, but I think that's sort of the quirkiness of his character. That's just who he is and how he's, and I get where you're coming from, but I I still kind of liked all of the way that story was told, and I kind of, to your point, more to sort of from a gameplay perspective. But I was glad that it was like 2 chapters in, and I basically had every skill I needed. Like I didn't have all the upgrades, and it slow drip fed me the upgrades that modified my skills. But I had all the skill. You have all the skills in 2 chapters.
Yeah, when I get to gameplay, I've got some things to say about gameplay.
Well, so I'm kind of with you with the whole Weaver thing too, Aaron. But my slightly different issue though. My issue is I didn't like that they had kind of this beginning cutscene of, these Weavers are born in a storm and they do this and that. So us as a player kind of know what she is and what she's about. But she's just kind of like, I'm a Weaver now. And like, she herself isn't learning and stuff like that. I would have much preferred they didn't have that beginning cutscene explaining, this is it. This is what you're doing. This is what, like, how it goes. There you go. Have fun. I would have preferred, like you said, with like the catfish of like kind of drawing it out, exploring it, her asking the questions and going with it.
From what you're saying, she's literally a teenager.
18.
Recently just graduated from high school, track star, but you don't know that she's experienced anything before about being a Weaver. She's never mentioned any of that. It literally, when the game starts up, she starts experiencing some things, kind of like, oh, that's weird. And then suddenly, well, you're a Weaver. Yeah, this is what Weavers do. And it's like her reaction to it is just a little odd. Again, when you just consider how well thought out so many other sections of the story was, I think that part, again, is just a little, it just doesn't jive right.
Well, it's because she's dead and she's in purgatory.
I mean, in itself, and I mean, I don't think we need a big spoiler section at the end, but I at least have one question that I could ask you. I am curious about your thought on that I wouldn't want to spoil anything with. But I will say that whole, like, the urgency of chasing her with her, and I understand it's the middle of a raging hurricane. She realistically shouldn't, but the whole, like, I'm just gonna go to this house and then magically they're just gonna have like some magical power to find my mother, or like helicopters at their, like, that whole logic to me was kind of weird, and just how suddenly and quickly it shifts from urgency to just like, well, I'm sure she's actually fine floating.
Yeah,
like, the house seemed to float, so
some of that stuff,
and I know she gets put to sleep. Again, I don't think that's a spoiler. It happens in the first 30 minutes of the game, but it's like you just, I don't know, that shift in it was very weird. But once you get past that, everything else just opens up to just fantastic storytelling. And I mean, at the very least, and it's kind of weird because I just Googled it because I was curious, like one of the monsters you fight, the Rougarou, it is a real thing.
Which I love saying that.
But apparently it's a more of a werewolf typically, but it does live in the bayous and all.
Yeah, I think it's just supposed to be like a general shapeshifter.
Well, yeah, and I think in some of these things it's a little bit more generalized. Heck, I did a quick Google. There's even a Hug and Molly.
Yep.
Again, completely unrelated to the one that's in the game.
And I think Two Toe Tom is a legend too.
Yeah, so I think it's like some of these names definitely are accurate. It's just not, they change the stories for it. As another really quick story note, I thought that was really cool, and I don't know if it actually was or just me assuming. There's a section of the game you start, like, there's like a ton of collectibles in one area, and it's like these little like trinkets that all have a note with them, and I feel like they were like discarded vignette ideas of like things that they had ideas for, because they're just these like 2-sentence like really dark snippets of like one's like a tricycle and something about the mother who couldn't catch up to the bike
when you get into the magic
like
caravan. And
I feel like like in that section was like, here's a bunch of ideas that we had that we couldn't quite flesh out, but like, here's just a little dark 2-sentence horror for you.
Yeah. But all right, but let's get into the gameplay here. So the gameplay, as I said, it's a third-person action platformer. You essentially are mostly doing a lot of exploring, obviously platforming. You're unlocking new abilities. So you have like a double jump, a glide, a grapple hook, but you have these very well telegraphed battle areas where you kind of go in and you fight these monsters called Haints, which are essentially these amalgamations of bad memories. And you're essentially beating them down, get their life bar low, and then you have to finish them off by untangling their weave. And then of course you have a handful of big cryptid monsters that are the boss fights, which are accompanied by their own set of music, their own stories. And that's essentially the gameplay. You're going around, you're getting some collectibles. As Key said, there's some story-driven notebooks you can find. There are these things called floofs, which are essentially ways to upgrade your abilities, and you're trying to modify your skills a little bit. But as far as combat goes, it's very pressing X, maybe throw, push people away, pull people in, rinse and repeat. So this for me is the weakest part of South of Midnight is the combat and gameplay. But I will say it wasn't bad. It definitely kept me interested. But I will say, like, this game is very well paced. While I'm also talking about it, time to beat, you're looking between 12 to 14 hours. So this is a nicely paced game that by the end of it, I was just like, okay, now I'm getting a little tired of it, but it did a good job hooking me.
Well,
but
I think the reason for that, because I think a little towards the end is sort of where I was feeling it, but overall, it has such a good balance, because from a majority combat perspective, there's literally no combos. It is X X X X X X X, and then
AX.
Yeah, jump.
You do. You have your dash, but like, there's no like hit XXY, XYX, like none of that to trigger different combos. And then you start to incorporate some skills around it, which are just hitting other buttons, but they're not. You can combo how you use them, but they're not required as it. And honestly, where it's a weird balance, because I played on the recommended difficulty. This is one of the rare instances I didn't put it to the hardest difficulty because I just didn't feel like it, but I think I could have very easily started this game and finished it on the hardest difficulty and not even noticed.
I think I died once,
and I don't think that's a problem necessarily, because it doesn't overstay its welcome. One of my favorite phrases, as you know. But like you said, that 12 to 14 hour mark, because what they do along the way is it's slowly, and it's not every single fight, but there's just enough of a new enemy introduced as you go through the fights. A new little skill gets dripped into it, or modification of your skills that make them. And the fact that the fights don't feel like too much. If there was a ton of these fights, or if it was like, say, an Atomfall, and this isn't even me taking a shot at it per se, but like an Atomfall where it's just like every 2 steps you take there's another 2 enemies, I would be so over this combat. But the fact that they were just these short little snippets of what amounted to maybe 60 seconds of a fight, they kind of felt fast-paced and fun. And in some cases, the music would kick in. Like, in all cases, the music would kick in, but sometimes it would kick in with like the thematic, like, storytelling music, and that just helped the kind of shadow over what was otherwise really, honestly, more mediocre combat.
Yeah, the platforming side of things, I think, felt great. I had no problem with the platforming side of things. That all felt great. A lot of the criticism you're going to see on this game is going to be focused on the combat. The combat also feels great. It's not a matter of the combat not feeling good. It's very fluid. It's very fast. The problem is how it presents the fights. I was getting to the point where I was kind of dreading going into the very telegraphed areas of the areas that I'm going to fight, just because it's a rinse and repeat process there. And it's just, I would prefer, I'm the opposite of Keith. I'd almost prefer this be a little bit more spread out, but make the enemies a little bit easier to kill. They make them an event, so it takes a little bit longer to handle them. But when you're in it, it really doesn't, it's not bad. It's just not my favorite part of it. Actually, what kills me, like what was really driving me crazy, is your process through the game in which you are getting the upgrade points, the floofs, whatever they're called, to when you can actually upgrade your items is not paced out properly at all.
Yeah.
And it was driving me crazy, because I was going around collecting all the floofs. That was kind of the one thing that was kind of fun to kind of hunt for. And it kept telling me, you've got new upgrades available. And you don't. I've upgraded everything that I can upgrade. I don't. And it was like that for a while. Like, I just kept collecting more. So I've got way more resources than I can actually spend on anything. So the moment that I could actually spend it, it's just like, got them all. Now I'm still stuck with an overabundance of resources here and nothing really to upgrade. That stuff was driving me nuts. It's just, you got to find a way to pace that out. Either give me less floofs to go hunt for, or give me more skills to have to feed
Were
into.
you full on like 100%ing every level, more or less? Because like there was a couple levels where there was like 300 of them, and I'd get to like 150, and I was like,
Whoa. I was like 90% collecting, and I got all the skills with some extra floofs by the end of the game.
Oh, see, I didn't. I missed out on a handful of the skills.
No, I was hunting for him. Every time I kind of walked into a new area, I was looking to see, is there something tucked behind here? Is there something I can jump up onto over here? Just because that was there. To me, the gameplay is secondary to the story.
Yeah.
It's a way to lead you through the story, but it's not going to be your centerpiece. It's not going to be the thing that you come back and say, man, the gameplay for this was great. And I don't want to reach into the future too much. But this feels like a game that I'd love to see a sequel. I would love to see a sequel in this. I don't really say that with a ton of games, but to me, I would love to see if this studio had a shot again to build another game like this and actually flesh out that gameplay a little bit more.
I'd love it to be an open world Metroidvania style game.
Yes, there's like I know I say this a lot in this podcast, but there is a version of this game that the gameplay works, and it works in tune with what's happening on the story. This feels like they understood the story, they understood the vibe. It feels perfect for it, but the gameplay was we'll figure it out. We'll just add some combat in here somewhere, and it just doesn't work.
All I was gonna say is what they did do though is they didn't do it poorly, and that's the one thing I can really appreciate. No. So many of these games will just completely skimp on one thing that you're just like, you can point to like, that is a fault of this game. It is a passable part of this game, but it like all of the other parts even work in tune to help boost it up. Like I was saying, like the music kicking in during some of the fights and the like just help make up for that gameplay being kind of flat.
So for me, like my biggest complaint with the gameplay was kind of the lack of challenge. Like I said, I only died once. I liked this platforming, but it was very easy. Combat was very easy. Like I said, I think I died once, and it was like during one of the boss fights. No, it might have been twice, but either way, very little times I've died. I don't know if you guys looked, but even on the accessibility options, you could turn off combat. You can literally turn on a skip button, and it's just hold down B and boop, you won. Even boss fights, you can skip it. So they, as you said, they definitely
take no damage.
Yeah, I'm curious, but I'm like, you definitely could tell that they 100% focus was on the environment and the story, which they nailed, and combat was just kind of put in there, which kind of makes me sad because it's like but it's not bad. Like as we keep saying, I enjoyed it. It kept me entertained enough. But yeah, anytime you kind of get all the memories, you always have this running platforming sequence.
Yeah.
Very much like, Ori did. I remember Last Case of Benedict Fox. Like there's a handful of platforming games that do this where you're running from a, destroying wall and you got to get away. Crazy easy. I didn't die once in any of them.
And my issue is not only how easy that is, my issue is that it doesn't. I didn't feel like I was even close to getting killed in that.
No,
if you're doing a chase sequence, you gotta make the thing feel like it's nipping at your heels. Yeah. That it is right on you.
I stopped and turned around and I saw it like a mile away, and I'm like, I'm so far ahead.
It sounds like it. Sounds like it. So the camera has to do something to either you're seeing it break the stuff behind you, or you feel its presence around you, or it does a thing where the camera kind of pans and you can see it chasing you. Like it need to do something more on that, because that process is clearly trying to make you feel tense, but it does a very bad job of actually putting you in any sense of danger. Because that felt like I'm just flying through this thing, and it felt like it's a mile away. You can hear it kind of yelling, and it
come back here, please.
It's like slow down. It feels like it's miles away. It doesn't feel like it's anywhere near me. That part, again, just with some tweaks, you can really fix that.
Yeah, I think I fell a couple of times, and it is an immediate death. But one of the things that it's so weird, because on one hand, like Andrew said, overall these chase sequences were super easy, but if you were like halfway through it, it actually did have little checkpoints that, like on the falls, it didn't make me start from the very beginning. which almost because it was so easy, I was like, oh, thank God. I was like, I would have been so annoyed. But as a weird side note, I'm not saying that it's the first of and only one I've ever seen it, but I noticed it for some reason and it stuck out to me, is like the turning left and right, like the camera panning as you moved. It still didn't make any sense of urgency or danger, but like not just being a straight like platforming right, the next thing's in front of you. The fact that it would actually shift and turn a little bit, it's probably not. And I just happened to notice it, but I thought it was cool.
Yeah, like Craig in our chat said, yeah, go hard on the RPG mechanics, deepen the combat to be more tactical, and make the traversal more engaging, and open up the world, and it could be a big success. Yeah, fully agree with you, Craig. But yeah, what do you guys think of the boss fights? Like the boss fights too, love the design of them, love the creature designs. I mean, all the creature designs in this game, characters and everything in this game, we'll get in that, and the graphics are great. But the boss fights, once again, were very rinse, repeat, doing the same mechanic over. So I was a little disappointed in the boss fights.
Rinse, repeat in what sense?
You pretty much knew right away how to weaken this guy to hit their weak point.
I mean, I guess, but they are all different.
Actually died twice before I even figured it out what I was supposed to do.
Two-Toe Tom was like the hardest one.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, when I was jumping and dodging, he would hit me every single time. You had to like just hit the dodge. You couldn't hit both at the same. It was very annoying. So I kept like finding myself in these situations where it's like, why does he keep hitting me? I'm nailing this right now. Why does he keep hitting me? But each of the scenarios, fine. You're right. Its ultimate goal is you're trying to get to its weak point, but they were varied. Like they weren't just.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm not saying every boss fight was the same. No, I wasn't saying that. I just felt like you basically got to hit a boss. They have 3 health bars. And every one of those health bars, you're doing the same thing. Well, they're just maybe adding a little more attack.
So this is I think what you're getting at least, because this is how I'm thinking of it, is like there's sequences to this boss fight. Like it's like, oh, I've got to the third tier of the boss fight, but all it's done is it's slightly changed the environment typically.
Yeah.
Like when you fight Hug and Molly, it starts as a big circular platform, and then she knocks out 2 holes. And so there's 2 places that you have to jump over to get in a full circle. And then she knocks out 2 more so it's like the fight's the exact same. And I think she adds a couple additional attack moves, but realistically nothing that made it really vastly more different or more difficult. Like I will say, same thing. If you've gotten past one of those checkpoints and you die at a boss, it automatically starts you right back at that last checkpoint. So that is a nice little thing too. As well, I was never struggling. I did die a couple times to bosses.
But yeah. Oh, pro tip too, as we're talking about gameplay. Whenever you're in an area, like whenever you're starting a chapter, press start, and it tells you how many of the floofs and journals you collected in the level, which is also a great help, because sometimes I'm like, man, how much more of this chapter do I have? And I can see kind of how much I've collected. So I'm like, okay, I got to be over close to the end of this chapter. So I always greatly appreciate, especially when it has achievements for it, if you have to collect things, tell me how much I've collected, how many is left in this area. And luckily this game does it.
Yeah, the collectibles are numbered too. So when you go back and you read them in your lore, it'll be like 3 of 15. So same thing. If you pick one up, you can get a gauge of where you are in the level based on the number.
Oh, one kind of complaint too about, it's very minor, of gameplay / story is I felt like Crouton, your little plush animal, was so underdeveloped.
Okay, I was gonna say, don't you dare speak ill of Crouton.
You literally find him at the beginning of the game. She's like, oh yeah, this is my stuffed animal, Crouton. I love this guy. And all of a sudden now he's alive, but like it's not fleshed out. Like he's only in partially in like one cutscene, and there's not much backstory of him, where he came from. Why is, out of all your stuffed animals, he's alive? That's very minor, but I was like, I wanted more Crouton.
Why does he look so freakish?
What was I say? Like, or maybe she says it. Where did she get that from? Was it her mom gave it to her?
I think she said her mom gave it to her at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was say like, had she got it from, like Bunny or something like that. And like, okay, it was like imbued with, I don't like, there's certain other things. Like, I guess there's ways they could have made it so that it was like a magical creature, but instead like, or like, something about like weavers have like some sort
a
of
familiar that helps them.
yeah, like give us something, I guess, that made it make sense. She just picks it up. Oh, you're damp. Oh, you're alive.
Yeah, that's the thing too. She didn't even seem like that attached to it. Literally at the beginning of the game, she's like, "Oh, this guy's nice. I like him. Okay."
And this is kind of my issue again with the Weaver, like explanations of the Weaver stuff. Like you're learning new abilities, and she seems so like, oh yeah, of course I can just mind control this
plush animal.
Toy. Yeah, like
of course, naturally.
It literally just presents it to you like yes, you have this ability, and it's like, wouldn't my character kind of be like, wait, I can do this? Why doesn't Catfish at least come in and explain, like, oh, hey, you can control something that's really close to you or something like that?
Yeah.
Why not have something like that? Instead, it's just, you're like, oh, Crouton, you're the best. Oh, control you now. Like,
let me throw you into spikes.
That's,
I mean, I will say, how many weird things have to happen to you in a period of 24 hours before you're just like, you know what? Anything that happens,
that's the thing, though. She barely reacts to any of it.
Well, she makes a joke about that. Something happens and she's like, honestly, this isn't the weirdest thing that happened to me today. So she starts to make jokes about it. Yeah, but all right, but we got to get into the thing that I think this game absolutely nails, and that is the art style. So this game, I remember this game was one of the Xbox showcases like 2-3 years ago when they first showcased this. Very claymation animation style. It looked very distinct, and I remember them being like, "Oh, this is in-game, in-game graphics," which, once again, another red flag for me, where I was like, no way this is happening. And I will say, it loses its claymation style playing the game, but not the cutscenes. The cutscenes in this game are gorgeous and stunning. Nail the cutscene. Heck, the opening cutscene, I'm pretty sure, is real claymation.
Yeah.
The very beginning.
I forgot about that scene because that's really random.
It's very random. Yeah. It's a very random intro.
That intro, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, with like Crouton hanging out with bunnies, and they're telling him, they're pointing a map at him, and he's like, okay. It's like, what is this movie?
It's super, had nothing to do with anything else in the rest of the game. But you're totally right. That whole part though is so cool though.
Yes.
I'm totally into it. But you're 100% right. The graphics are crazy good in this game. I think the character design is also pretty cool. I even like her mom kind of looks freakish in a way.
Her mom is the worst looking character. Yeah.
But I kind of like that though.
She looks very claymation because of it.
Yes.
Though. Like almost like I'm thinking like the dad in Coraline.
It's over exaggerated features. Yeah. It's these over exaggerated features, which again, I love in claymation films. I love kind of these almost goddishly looking creatures, and her mom has that, and the others don't as much. I wish they all kind of did, but there are some characters actually. Yeah, there are some characters that have it. I just wish they leaned even heavier into it. But it's beautiful. I really have very minimal complaints there. It's just everything about it looks great.
I mean, well, I don't know how you can truly make claymation like video game because you can't
Clay Fighter 64.
Well, true. That's a valid point.
I don't know if that was claymation, but
outside of that, like I feel like the way they made the motion while you're moving made it feel like claymation. At least.
Yeah. I don't think it's
maybe not all of it. Maybe not all of it. Again, I think some of those, your dashes are a little too smooth to feel even like claymation at all. But yeah, those cutscenes, like I was looking forward to each and every one of them. Like, I mean, I think you had said it too, Andrew. I don't know if you said it on the episode or not, but like Kel in our Discord had said it. Like you can see some of the thumbprints in the characters when you're watching it, and I think like the Catfish especially, who's maybe the most well-designed character in the entire game. But yeah, like if you look really close in some of those cutscenes, like you can just see they handcrafted each of these characters, and it just looks so cool.
See, to me, like I noticed the fingerprints in the cutscenes. I think the cutscenes kind of did that, but it wasn't like I said during the gameplay though. It was more of an illusion than it actually was claymation. Because that's the thing too. Your character has this kind of jutting movement, like you have like low frames. But it's an illusion because once again, in the options, you can turn that off. So it's like, oh, so it's not real kind of claymation movement.
But still really impressive.
Oh, it is. This is a minor complaint. Like, it's very minor because, like I said, the art style and the environment and everything about this game is gorgeous and stunning. What I always reference to, there was a game I played, I mentioned in our Discord as well. It was called The Swapper, which was a puzzle game. It's kind of hard to see, but I'll at least kind of show the screenshots of it. But this was another puzzle game. It was 2D, but it had claymation style. And literally in the backgrounds, once again, you could see fingerprints because they said in the back, like everything was actually handcrafted on like how they did these things. But that's what like really kind of caught my attention when I originally saw this game. I was like, oh, it kind of looks like The Swapper. But I loved the art style overall in South of Midnight. Like, this isn't much of a complaint. It's just, for me, my only complaint with the graphics is why is there not a 3D model viewer? Capcom does this with almost all their games, like where it's like, oh, here's so-and-so on a pedestal and you can rotate it and zoom in, blah, blah, blah. I want this for this game. For specifically, like the catfish is gorgeous. The design in him
have a full design for him because he's hanging up when you first meet him. So you clearly have a full body design of him.
Yeah. Give me a gallery. I want to look at him because like he has such little details. Like for the longest time, I kept thinking he was supposed to be half night, half day because he has yellow on one side and kind of a purple hue on the other. His eyes are almost mechanical looking. I absolutely loved his design. Anytime he was on the screen, I just wanted to keep staring at him and looking at him.
Well, give me a story about him too, because he's clearly some sort of cryptid like the rest of them. So clearly there's some reason that he's the reason that
there's like no backstory with him.
Which you want to talk about an underutilized character. He is such a focal point, but tell me more about him.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe a second one.
Don't get me wrong. I'm all into claymation stuff, so I totally understand. I've looked at individual models of characters. I've watched behind the scene makings of claymation film because I love that stuff so much. I kind of understand that in the actual action sequences, why you just really can't do that in claymation. I totally understand that just doesn't work. This is why some of the critiques very early on is people didn't like it because it looked like it was low frame rate. Where to me, I looked at that and thought that's a really cool design choice. It's a really cool design choice to do something like that.
Which, like I said, you can turn it off.
Yeah, but I don't know why you would. It's not enough of an issue that you'd feel the need to do that. But again, I really just don't really have any complaints about it. Sure. Would I like an added ability to look at that type of stuff? Yeah, but I bet you $1 million you could probably look this up online and probably see what they've designed from the studio themselves. So it's not the end of the world.
I mean, there's a photo mode. You know, Keith, you were playing with it. Isn't that what you were playing with Crouton?
No, I was just moving the camera around and taking screenshots with Xbox.
Yeah, because you do use him in third person.
I would love it to have a true photo mode because, like, it like some of the picture or the screen captures I was taking weren't coming out with the brightness I wanted. But so, like, a photo mode, you could actually mess with that. But
anyway, so let's get into the other topic that I guess was kind of stirring up Craig in our chat here. The music. The music, like awesome. I said, it's good. I just have some complaints about it.
It's fantastic.
I want to hear these complaints. Yeah, go ahead and justify your stupid complaint.
So the music is, once again, this is what I give high praise for. All original music. It's all done by Compulsion. They have the same artist for it all. The music is a lot of storytelling. You know, obviously you're learning about Two Toe Tom, Benji. So this music is playing in the background and it's kind of going through. My biggest issue is not all the songs hit for me. Some of the lyrics in the music, how it's playing, specifically the one that at first was kind of like, was when you were learning about Cherie. You had, I think Bunny was supposed to be kind of the character singing. And I was like, that song's kind of weird. But for me, my biggest issue was kind of the placements for some of the songs because they're very good. And some of them was like, because anytime like a music's going, you're like, oh, here comes a boss fight. Here comes something big. And it's like, no, I'm just going around collecting floofs. And then the song just kind of ends. And I'm like, no, that's just kind of weird. It was just a few moments.
Fills in the in-between. That just fills in the in-between. And usually that version of the song is like a prelude to the boss battle, which is then a much larger version of that song. So you're kind of getting like, again, kind of like bits and pieces of it before you get to the full version of it. You're absolutely wrong. The music in this, top to bottom,
Well, because
it's creepy, it's eerie, it's awesome.
All of the audio sequences happen right after one of the cutscenes. So like you said, it kind of summarizes back what you just watched happen. And then with each
hold on, thing you gotta pause that. This is gonna edit all of that out.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Because it's gonna hear talk over.
So yeah, it summarizes what you just saw in the little vignette. Then it takes it and it like sort of escalates it further and further until you get to that. When you get to the boss scene, then it's like at its full peak. It's all going, and it fills itself in, and then it just fades into what's a perfectly looping instrumental, because the lyrics wouldn't work consistently. That would get absolutely dragging, and you can't create ongoing new lyrics. So it does this perfect sequence of giving you a snippet of it and then just fading into the background to a perfectly looped fitting background music. And that's why Andrew could not be more wrong on this.
Okay, you guys are making it seem like I hate the music. I don't hate it. You do. Specifically, I love each one of the specific boss musics. Tuto Tom, Benji, Hug and Molly, Rougarou, the Tale of the Chase of Kuzma. Great songs. It's just some of the in-betweens. Like I said, specifically the Sherry one, or Cherie. I keep calling her Sherry.
You're still wrong though.
It's because you didn't understand what was happening.
I did understand what was happening. I could hear the lyrics.
No, because you were not understanding how that actually serves hand in hand with the story. It's filling the in-between for you before you get to the grand crescendo at the end of it. You're 100% wrong. That. The music, top to bottom, is awesome. And what is truly a tragedy in all of this is I'm afraid that this soundtrack is going to be overlooked in video game history, even though this video game soundtrack should be an all-timer. That's how good this actually is. It tonally fits so good. It's all original work. It's all story-driven. It's all part of the story. And it's got just that southern, eerie, gothic feel to it. It's just beautiful through and through. You're absolutely wrong to criticize.
There's something so perfect.
My criticism was mostly placement. Come on.
Wrong.
No, but the placement is perfect.
It is.
There's something so perfect too, like about the way the lyrics are too. Because like I read a couple comments of people like complaining at first. They're like, the lyrics are weird because it's just like describing what's happening. But I think that's sort of the style of the music for one. But on top of that, it actually, like, again, without spoilers because it's just the name of the story, but like the Benji story, listening to them just repetitively sing it over and over again, you're like, ooh, I get it. Yeah, that's rough. And the more and it starts to pick up, and it like it's faster, and it's like almost like joyous in a way.
Yeah. See, that was one of my favorites because it was a good placement. It was a big platforming area of the guy, and I'm like, this is cool.
But depending on how quickly you go through it, and even if you go through it pretty quickly, it's still done about halfway through with the lyrics, and it fades into the music just the way that all of it does. The lyrics don't generally carry through from like one point to another. They're meant to be just a snippet.
Okay, and that's another one of my complaints though with the placement. There was a couple times the music's kicking in, and I'm like, I like this, but then all of a sudden I hit a boss fight, and it cut the music short. And the music didn't continue after the fight. And so I was like, I went too fast and it cut the song short. This is just what I mean. I just thought some of the placements just didn't quite hit for me.
You're wrong.
Yeah, I don't know how else to describe that you are wrong at this, because this is just, there are areas to criticize. Not in the music though. The music's perfect.
But yeah, so it's all on Spotify, 20 tracks. As you're saying though, Aaron, like this is going to be a soundtrack that gets lost in video game history. The only thing is, would you listen to this on its own?
Yes, I at the very least, and maybe it's just because I was playing through it and like just finished it, but I put it on today. Like I was just sitting at my computer and just had it on in the background, and I absolutely liked it for some casual background, because it obviously doesn't loop the songs for like 15 minutes. It gives you just like, the 1 to 3 minute loop of it or whatever.
Yeah, it's not even like would you just listen to this on your own? That's not where I would even scale this metric. Like, sure, the songs are actually songs, so you can 100% just go listen to them. But I think what's actually more interesting is how it works with the story. I think that is, to me, what makes this truly special, is that the music was story driven. Yeah. So it's not just about making something that just elicits feeling or has this rising feel to it. It is trying to tell the story along with the story, and it's trying to lead you into that. To me, that part of it is what makes it so special. To me, that is the part that it's a shame to me that I'm afraid that this will be lost in all of this, and that no one will realize actually how great this soundtrack was along with that story.
Yeah, I do love the incorporation. They had a lot of children chorus in the background, cool. Which is great. Also, cool. Too, in the options, you can actually turn off lead vocals. If the music is annoying you, they give you the option where you can kind of turn off the vocals.
That's stupid. Why would you even have that as an option?
I don't know.
It's interesting, but it's nothing I would do.
But anyway, so then the achievements, I would actually recommend this for achievement hunters. Like I said, this is not a very long game. The achievements are very solid. You're getting a lot of achievements for just beating the game. There's a handful of combat specific ones, which just look up. They're easy to do. There's a handful. You got to collect all the floofs, all of the notes. That kind of takes some time, but you do have a chapter select. Each boss has an associated achievement with as well to not take damage during the boss fight, which is a little bit of a challenge, but I think it's doable. Just
put it on the easiest difficulty, or maybe see if the skip sequence will let you do it.
The easiest difficulty would probably just reduce damage. I don't think it would make the boss fights attack less. Or true. Maybe they might take more damage. I don't know, but it's a good point. None of them look like they're difficulty locked. So you should be okay if you want to play this in easy. You should be able to get majority of the achievements. But overall, the achievements aren't bad in this game. But yeah. So let's get into our final thoughts here. As I said, South of Midnight, this is a definite game. It definitely has its issues a little bit with its gameplay, but its art style, its music. Yes, I did like its music, even though these two are trying to make it seem like I hated it and I was dumping on it.
You were.
This game is such a wonderful package. It was refreshing. This was something that was just really interesting to just long day of work. It wasn't too challenging. You just sit down. It's an engaging story to listen to what's going on and these really dark tales, beautiful environments. I loved this game. I thought it was very well done. It is just, you could just really actually surprisingly feel the passion in this game of just because they took the time to really do the story, to do this art style, to do this music. Maybe not so much with the combat and the gameplay, but still, this is a great game. Like I said, don't be ignorant. Don't listen to the noise online. This is 100% worth your time. As Aaron said, I'm with him. I cannot wait for a sequel. I hope they continue with it. Oh, that's the other thing too, though. I forgot to mention this at the beginning. And I want to mention it now because we also didn't really talk much about voice acting. I saw very little of the main character. Her name's Hazel. The recent gameplay showcase they showed the beginning cutscene, and I was like, this game will absolutely make or break depending on this character. And I was nervous because the beginning cutscene, she's like, Mom, you care about too many people, but not me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this character is going to be whiny and annoying. I actually loved this character. She didn't talk a lot. She talked just enough, and it was always very inquisitive. What's going on? Little jokes and jabs here. Hazel was so well written and so well voice acted. I really liked this character because I was like, this is a game where she's going to be the one who's 90% talking. And she is, and she does a great job. So I actually would love to see this character again. I would love a sequel. For me, I'm giving this an 88.
I don't know. I said it already. I think while this may not be the perfect game, I think it is the perfect package. I was going to joke about it. I was starting to feel like, maybe I don't even like video games anymore, but I realized I was just looking at our last 5-7 games, and Adamfall was the only game I truly just did not like. Every other game I actually liked to some capacity.
You liked Legion more than Adamfall?
I think so, yeah.
Oh,
that's a whole different conversation. But even then, that's 2 games that maybe I didn't potentially like all that much. Adamfall made me angry, you know that. But like, this was just like, I was excited, and just it was like putting smiles on my face, just one. I only have one face, not multiple. it was putting smiles on my face like all along the way, even though some of it's a little bit dark, a lot dark at times. But I just loved every aspect of it. The art was good, the music was good, the gameplay was the quote unquote downfall of it. And really, it was like, I still thought it was fine. And and unless you're Andrew and you have no sense of anything musically, and you thought that this was the worst music that's ever been put in a game,
all right,
it's absolutely perfect. And like the music, and this is like, I would not obviously go so far as to be like, oh, this is above Halo, because Halo is just in its own class of music in video games. But this is, in my opinion, an absolute demo of what games need to do more of musically. At least maybe not all games, but if you've got a good narrative of a game, make the music work, and it makes the storytelling so much better. I think I'd give this a 94.
Yeah, this is a great game. We've got a lot of good things to say about it, and it's not super often that I'm like, man, I would love to just see these guys do this again, because I would love to see, with even more time and with kind of going back and fixing some of the things that needed to be fixed in this game, what could you truly make? Like, what could you truly do here? So, good on Compulsion for being Canadian and still somehow nailing this. As it's been said, it's not a perfect game, but it is absolutely a great experience. And one of these games where it's like, I'm happy it's on Game Pass, bummed out that I don't think it's going to get the attention that it probably deserves. But yeah, I'm going to stick with Andrew on this one. I think an 88 is pretty fair for this one.
Did you guys see how much this game cost?
No.
It's a $40 game.
That's a good price for a 12-hour.
It's a very good, like, this game is well worth that price. I give it as a $40 game.
Yeah. Worth it. And I was thinking that as I was playing this, would there ever be a game I would purchase on Game Pass, even though I have it on Game Pass? Would I purchase it just because I liked it that much and I kind of want that studio to kind of get that recognition? This is kind of one of those games where you'd feel like, all right, especially $40, just to say, hey, this is great. Hope to see more of it.
I think at the very least, if there was like a DLC at that point, just like buy the whole package, buy the DLC, and with it, because I could even, like, at the very least, I could see something of that nature. Because did you beat the game, Aaron?
No, I'm close. I'm right there at the end.
Okay. Did you watch through the full credits, Andrew?
Yes. Not the full credits, but the end cutscene?
Yeah. And not that it tells any massive story, but I feel like it definitely opens up the door to tell more stories of Hazel, at the very least. Like, they make it very obvious that there's more to her story, and that and alone, because I think sets for some DLC, which I'm excited for potentially.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll wrap it up here. Do we want to talk a little spoilers? Why my theory? Why I think it's purgatory?
I only have one question that actually might kind of fit that.
All right.
So I can just ask you after. It doesn't have to be a whole thing. We'll just wrap this up.
All right. Well, wrap it up. We'll talk a little bit here at the end. But anyway, thank you all for joining us. Make sure you go to our link tree. I'll have it in our show notes. Join us. Thank you so much, Craig, for joining us on our chat, and same with you, Curtis. We always love to interact with people during our live talks here. We do it every Wednesday around 9:00 EST. Follow us on our YouTube. It also is posted there on YouTube. And you may find some episodes of ours a little funky at the moment. We are switching our host to Spotify. But because of that, going forward, you can also watch these videos on Spotify. Hopefully, if it keeps working properly. But so you can also see our semi-wonderful faces. But yeah, I've been your hardcore gamer host, Andrew. You can find me on Xbox Live at Firebird01952. Thank you all for joining us. I don't know if you guys want to say bye or you just want to play music.
Okay, goodbye. Hit the music.
We're gonna. Well, I think we're apparently.
Oh yeah.
Spoiler.
So anyway, we'll talk a little quick spoilers. So
here's all I want to ask you then, Andrew.
Okay.
If you truly are, if you're not just making a joke about this being purgatory, is this that you died at the very beginning of the game, and then the whole sequence with Rue at the end, where you break out of his illusion? You never actually truly break out of his illusion. You only break out of his illusion inside of the illusion, but you're ultimately still inside of his purgatory illusion, inside of that town.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Because I pointed out in our chat.
I don't think that it is what it is at all. But I immediately, when you said purgatory, I knew that's where you were going.
So I do think it's purgatory because you're all talking about fixing people, and you're doing these stories of essentially guiding people to the afterlife, and that's why I'm thinking the catfish is kind of Charon of the River Styx.
The afterlife, you just fix him and teach him how to control it. Bunny learns that she didn't actually fix anything. You just settled.
But Honey,
you did settle. Yes, you did settle Benji and Sherry.
And Honey,
yes,
and
you do, but you reunite. But they don't go. Well, they do go away. Yeah,
because
Tom doesn't go away. You just make him less angry.
But the whole story too of your mom's working with Hug and Molly, like what? Like, and your mom never mentioned this.
That was a fantastic twist on the story.
It is. It is.
That was really cool.
But the fact that you see all these monsters in Bunny's house and then all of a sudden fall in the river, because you're seeing these quick snippets of your mom's memories, and she specifically has that memory of your mom yelling at you, "Don't make that jump. My baby's dead. She didn't make it." That's why I think this is all purgatory.
Well, because she watched her daughter fall into a raging river in the middle of a hurricane.
But if she's
yelling that my
with
child
Hugging
was
Molly,
dead too,
you don't think she knows about kind of some of this weird cryptid stuff?
I don't think she just immediately assumes that Hug and Molly's going to save her daughter. No, I think that she's in a panic.
Not that the Hug and Molly, I think not that Hug and Molly saves her, but I don't know. Just
it sounds like what you're asking is that she wouldn't be that panicked, because if she knows Hug and Molly, she knows that she'll ultimately save her because they're working together and they're friendly. But I think it's a real stretch, and I can see you connect the dots, but no, I don't think so. I think that's how the Weaver works, and to some degree, yes, you do just kind of guide people to the afterlife. You're fixing the tapestry, but in those cases, the tapestry is broken because someone like Bunny or Benji's brother, I want to call him Rocket, but it's not Rocket. Whatever his name.
It was which also too. How is his name? Yeah, what was his name?
Either way, because something awful was done to that person, their soul is twisted. Because even in
Rhubarb,
Rhubarb. Because even in Big Benji's case, he's not even like some twisted monster. He's just a tree.
Yeah,
he's not hurting people. He's a tree, and so he still needs to be.
He tried to hurt Catfish.
He did.
That's true.
But ultimately, I just I get where you're going from, but no, I don't think it's ultimately purgatory.
Well, thanks for at least discussing. I mean, I don't think it's a definite, but it definitely, some of it was kind of like, this seems it. But anyway,
just like the music. The music's fantastic.
All right, love you all. We'll see you again next week.